Hi everyone, this is User1. About 7 months ago, I made a weapons guide on LSRP talking about weapon script on LSRP. I touched on things like LSRP weapon related commands, weapon damage and such. However, I will not address too much of that in this video, so if you'd rather learn about LSRP specific weapon damage and such, please take a look at the thread linked in the description of this video. That being said, this video is still very much LSRP centered, however majority of what I'm going to talk about can be easily applied to any other Samp server, and let me explain why. We all know Samp is a multiplayer mod of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, right? Well, this means all Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, unless modded, will all weapons will behave in a similar fashion across different servers. The way weapons shoot, the fire rate and the spread, this cannot be changed by a server and it's part of the game. The only thing that servers can change is damage. LSRP has modified damage values of various weapons, which I analyze in this thread. One of the most important things to note, hitting someone in the head actually does more damage, exactly 50% more damage of the original damage dealt, opposite. On the other hand, hitting someone in their legs will yield 50% less damage. So, for the most common example, a Desert Eagle does 45 damage to the chest, arms and groin. However, to the legs it only does 23 damage and to the head it can do 68. However, this doesn't mean you should shy away from shooting people in the legs, as doing so will likely make them stumble, therefore making them unable to get in cover or shoot you. LSRP's damage system is by far my favorite, because most weapons can kill a fully health opponent in under a second. However, there are some very significant flaws with it. For one, most submachine guns only deal 15 damage. Yes, 15. That's less than a Colt which does 20. You need to land 10 shots on your enemy to take them down. However, you have to mind literally impossible recoil patterns. Speaking of recoil, if you don't hold down aim while shooting, or if you drive by, you literally will get zero recoil on any weapon. This makes weapons very situational. If you want to win shootouts in LSRP, take drugs. They will give you a lot of hit point boosts. You can take up to 250 hit points. But what can help you more is knowing how to take full advantage of your weapon. Let's talk about individual weapon types, starting from perhaps the most popular type in the game, pistols. Colt 45's underuse can be linked to the fact that its default damage is approximately 5. However, keep in mind that on LSRP it can deal 20 damage. Also keep in mind that it has a higher fire rate and magazine capacity compared to a Desert Eagle. In my personal experience, I won more shootouts against the Desert Eagle when I had a Colt 45. Once I even took down an opponent with a shotgun. Another feature that makes Colt 45 just so much better than Desert Eagle is the fact that you can drive-by with it. As we already learned, drive-bying increases your fire rate even more and makes your weapon impossibly accurate. Shots land exactly on a crosshair, no matter how fast you shoot. However, despite that, Colt 45 also has some major downsides. One being that if you shoot behind yourself, your character ends up shooting in air instead of aiming at your crosshair. This can, in theory, be solved if you crouch. However, that lowers your fire rate. That Desert Eagle is a competitive weapon, and it is preferred by most people as it is by default a weapon with most damage on most servers. However, on LSRP it ranks 4th after sniper rifle, and a shotgun. Speaking of shotguns, actually there's 3 types of shotguns: pump, sawn-off and combat. However, they all behave in a similar fashion except for the sawn-off, which is one-handed, and the combat shotgun is fully automatic with 7 shots in each magazine. So I'll be talking about the shotgun that the most players will be able to acquire, the normal pump shotgun. It is a very situational weapon because of its outright physics-defying properties. It can literally go around cover if you hit your enemies while they are completely invisible to you. This needs extra explanation. The way most weapons work is they calculate recoil from your perspective, and the first shot is always accurate. However, because the shotgun is such a different weapon that at one time it shoots dozens of pellets, it calculates recoil on the surface that the first pellet hit. So if you place your crosshair on a surface, a pellet will fly into that surface and only then calculate the radius of the recoil. and that means it will hit even the part of that recoil that isn't visible on your screen. This is extremely abusive and leads to shotgun being one of the most powerful weapons in the game, as its pellets literally shoot enemies behind cover. There is nothing roleplay cells can do to fix it, as I said before, since the only thing that cells can do is adjust the damage value and not how the weapon works. So to get most advantage of your shotgun, you want to be just out of sight of your enemy and shoot the surface next to them. Even if you don't see the enemy, they will still be hit because of the spread. Speaking of ridiculous spread, let's talk about submachine guns. By far the most underpowered weapons on LSRP and the most overpowered weapons on RCRP, strictly due to weapon damage. On LSRP, Tech 9 and Uzi both do 15 damage per shot. Now, at first that sounds reasonable, given how fast they deplete their ammunition. However, if you look at the ridiculous recoil pattern, you will understand that spraying this weapon is not an option anywhere but 2 meters away from your enemy. However, as I mentioned before, recoil is completely cancelled out if you perform a drive-by. This means the Uzi and Tech 9 are pretty much useless anywhere but in a drive-by. The MP5, used by many LSPD units to take tires, given a much more respectable but still underpowered 28 damage per shot. And since it still has a high recoil outside of drive-by, it's very difficult to use this weapon anywhere but in close quarters combat. For long distance attacks, you may prefer assault automatic rifles. AK-47 does more damage than M4, however its recoil pattern and smaller magazine makes it more of a novelty weapon. AK-47 does 40 damage per shot and an M4 does 35 damage per shot, however an M4 has 20 more rounds in each magazine. These weapons are hard to come by and both of them are usually very effective. On longer range I recommend tap shooting, as the first shot is always accurate. Speaking of accurate, rifles. The rifle and the sniper rifle are some of the most rare weapons to come by on LSRP. When aiming, they literally provide you with longer viewing distance and allow you to see players at longer range that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. If you can see the enemy, you can shoot them. On LSRP, the sniper rifle will instantly kill anyone no matter where you hit them because of its ridiculous 500 damage mark. An officer with an upgraded health has 150 hit points. A SWAT unit has a full body protection armor that gives them an extra 100 hit points, leaving that SWAT operative with 250 hit points to play with. A shot to the leg is only half damage on default shot. So still, since the sniper rifle does 500 damage, you divide that by 2, that's still 250 hit points, which means anyone in the way of the sniper rifle will instantly be killed by LSRP, on LSRP. The rifle, on the other hand, is much more underpowered, dealing only 70 damage, however that is still the second highest damage per shot weapon. What is your favorite weapon? Let me know in the comments below and tell me what would you like me to talk about next. Don't forget to leave a question for hashtag QA on Twitter, and remember to always stay awesome.